Uber stock has been on my buy list for a while, but here's the thing. There's a massive risk hanging over it right now. Some investors are convinced that Tesla's Robotaxi will completely destroy Uber's business. But guess what? I am still buying. I'm gonna explain why, and I think you're gonna find some good value in this video. So let's get started. Alright, so if we start off by looking at the valuation, we can see that Uber is currently trading at a trailing PE of around 36. Now we can compare this to the S&P average, which is of 27. This stat alone could maybe make some investors back off from Uber, but I would argue that a naked PE ratio really tells us nothing about how fairly a company is valued. To understand that, we need to compare the PE to the growth of revenue and the growth of net income. In its latest quarter, Uber grew its revenue by 20% and its net income by a staggering 1081%. The net income was, however, boosted by a 1.7 billion benefit due to unrealized gains related to the revaluation of Uber's equity investments. So, in other words, some of the investments Uber has made has increased a lot in value. If we remove this one-time benefit out of the equation and instead take a look at income from operations, we can see that they grew 169% year over year. So still super impressive, especially when you compare it to the S&P average of 5.1% earnings growth. Analysts are currently expecting revenue growth of 26.3% for Q4 and 15.6% for 2025, but a far stronger earnings growth though. They think Uber will have earnings growth of 91% for 2025 and an average earnings growth of 47% per year for the next 5 years. It's always hard to predict exactly what will transpire in the future, but I think the analysts are mostly correct in this assessment. Uber has built up a huge platform with strong brand recognition, not just in the US, but also in most of Europe. It's important to remember that when Uber launched in 2009, it was the first mover into this industry. Sure, there is some competition from companies like Lyft and other small ones, but building up that consumer trust and loyalty takes time, and usually the first mover has an advantage in that regard. Personally, I live in Sweden, and every time I travel anywhere in Europe, I use the Uber app pretty much everywhere I need to go. It is by far the taxi app I trust the most. Having a strong brand and loyal consumers is the reason that Uber can continue to increase their prices and therefore increase their net income margin. Being able to increase prices of your product is a huge parameter I look at before investing in any company, and Uber has proved it definitely has it. Let's now take a look at what investors probably regard as the biggest risk to Uber's business model: the rise of self-driving cars. The bears of Uber always bring up Tesla's Robotaxi network as something that will disrupt Uber's business model. Now, first of all, there are currently around 5 million Uber drivers worldwide and only around 3 million Tesla vehicles on the road. So even if every single person who owns a Tesla started using their car as a taxi vehicle, it still wouldn't be enough to take away Uber's business. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people who own a Tesla want it for themselves and not to be used by strangers as a taxi. Currently, Teslas are not allowed to drive autonomously on the roads without driver supervision, but there is another company that has self-driving cars on the roads as we speak, and it is Waymo. Waymo is owned by Alphabet and has been working on self-driving technology since 2009. Uber and Waymo have had a partnership for a few years now, and by the looks of it, it seems both parties are happy about this team-up. Recently, Waymo and Uber announced that in early 2025, consumers in Austin and Atlanta will be able to take fully autonomous rides, only available in the Uber app. This sort of partnership between the two is already in place in Phoenix, where tens of thousands of fully autonomous trips have already taken place. To summarize, I'm not so sure that the fully autonomous future even is a bad thing for Uber as a company, especially considering the drivers are by far the biggest cost for Uber. As I mentioned before, Uber has been active since 2009, So just imagine all of the driver data they have collected. I mean, why would Waymo want to partner up with Uber? Why not just launch their own service? I would like to hear the bears of Uber answer these questions. Regardless, fully autonomous rides are currently available in a few cities in the United States. But for it to be a worldwide phenomena, it's gonna be years and years into the future. I think from a valuation standpoint and a fundamental business standpoint, Uber is looking like a fantastic stock to own for the medium to long term. Uber has been buying back their stock quite heavily, and the CEO has flagged for more and bigger buybacks to come. So aside from growth on both top and bottom line, there is great value being returned to shareholders. I would also not be surprised to see a dividend being initiated in the coming years. What is your thoughts on Uber and the future of self-driving taxis? Do you think the bears of Uber are right in their thesis that Tesla is gonna disrupt the entire business of Uber? Please drop a like and comment below with your thoughts on this matter. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.